conversation, I was very, very fortunate because one craftsperson who epitomises some of the amazing work being produced in this country is ceramics artist Michelle Marr. I was very fortunate to be invited to visit her at her workshop. Now, I hope my wife is watching this because this is the kind of garden I like. No grass and low maintenance. But it is a garden that contains some gorgeous ceramics. Not the kind of ceramics you'll find and be able to buy off the shelf, because this is the brilliant and wonderful artwork of Michelle Marr. This is her studio, and we're going to pay her a visit. You draw your inspiration from nature.
Yes.
Have you always been in love with nature?
Yes, yeah, like I'm a country girl. I grew up down in Tipperary, and yeah, just walking around fields and stuff like that. When I think back when I was a teenager, I was just walking around fields and just looking at grass and thinking, this is pretty cool, you know.
Okay.
And now I'm a city girl, and I'll always, when I go to town, drive through the Phoenix Park so I get the bit of green, even though it's probably a long way around. But that's, yeah, so yeah, I do. I like nature, but I'm particularly interested in kind of hidden parts of nature, and microbiology, and sort of like if something like algae, but I'm interested in what does it look like in a microscope.
Right.
How does it reproduce, and kind of weird stuff like that.
Okay, and that's what influences your work?
Yes, the science behind things is very important to me. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in that kind of thing, yeah.
There's quite an event coming up in the Botanic Gardens, which you're involved in.
Yes, yeah.
And you're involved in again this year.
Yes, yeah. This is my 9th year to do sculpture and context in the Botanic Gardens. And the show is running for about 30 years now, biggest sculpture show in the country, an amazing show. There could be over 100 artists exhibit all over the gardens. Could be hanging out of a tree, in a pond, you know, in one of the glass houses, you know, so we use the space. It's what you call site specific, so we use the space and respond to it.
You're also working on this.
Yes.
And there's a lovely story behind this.
Yes. This, I commissioned myself. Okay. For once. I commissioned myself to make a piece for my sister and her partner who are getting married this week. And the idea, it's inspired by a seascape in the Burren in County Clare. And there's a fungus called a puffball. And puffballs, well, they explode out their spores, but I imagine what would a puffball look like when it's disintegrating inside, and I imagine all these kind of waves and hollows and stuff. Okay. So it's sort of two sources of inspiration. But the sea is kind of really important. This is what the piece will look like when it's fired. So these colours and that glaze is, it's a glaze I developed myself, you know. But inside of all of these, I put some wishes for the couple. So I wrote down, and I was crying actually doing it, because it was, you know, like obviously my sister and I adore them, and I just want, you know, this, starting out in this journey, and I just wrote down lots of things, even some little poems and stuff in it. And
okay, so how will it get from being this to this?
I will have to glaze it. Apply the glaze. So glaze is like a thin layer of glass that we apply. It goes on as a liquid, and then it dries as a powder, and that powder is a type of glass. Now, there's more than just glass in it. Glazing is all about chemistry.
All right.
So it's actually quite complicated, but in layman's terms, it's like a thin layer of glass.
This is some of the work of one of Michelle's students, Paula, who travels from one side of Dublin City to the other to attend classes. She finds them therapeutic.
Extremely therapeutic. You get lost in your piece, and it is just, I find it really beneficial, you know. All the stresses of life just gone. Absolutely. You wouldn't think about anything.
Is that one of the main reasons why you do it?
Well, that, and because I love it now. It's like a bug. It just catches, you know, and I'm a little bit addicted to it now, I think, you know.
I think the role of the artist as an educator is important, and the craftsperson to pass on that. And so I do a lot of work in schools as well, and even with my students here in the classes. Yeah, it's become a very important part of my practice. Their enthusiasm as well for the clay and for what's happening, and you know, even they're hearing about exhibitions that are going on. So it's kind of, you know, it's a collaboration that's going on. But it's, yeah, I love teaching. I do.
She makes good coffee as well, I have to say.
She's such an artist.
Well, but she is an artist, and you know, I remember just, you know, making a quip. You know, did you make the mugs yourself? And she said, I make nothing functional. I just deal in art. And not being
Beautiful
small,
work.
but
Really
a lovely, lovely lady, and very, really, really gifted. But those who do visit, and she teaches, will make mugs and functional items like
well,
vases
actually,
and bowls.
it's interesting, that idea that she kind of doesn't make things functional, because there's a lot of craftspeople now that are moving on from kind of functional objects to more aesthetic pieces, like she's talking about, or even a lot of the textile artists will make things that hang on walls, and patchwork quilts will hang on walls, and people make baskets now that are really much more to look at than to use. So, you know, craftspeople are changing a lot.
She was telling me, and I got to see, because on the internet, incredible piece of art that she has in Bernardo's, in the Bernardo's offices.
Oh, wow.
In Christchurch. Just an incredible piece that actually curves around the wall. I think we had a shot of it during that too.
But even talking now about functionality, people are making their own cosmetics these days.
Yes, yeah, that's